to Richard is how do we convince men who are not persuaded that this question of gender and stereotypes is so important for change?
I think we need to take, I call them five approaches to this. The very first approach is that men need to find relatable spaces. And for example, with the people that I handle in the voice community, they are mainly young people. So I remember the last month we focused on the subject of consent, and we had invited resource persons to come and talk about sexual consent. And one resource person spoke. She told me that, oh, I'm coming with my PowerPoint presentation, and I'm coming to talk to these people. I was like, no. Can we have a conversation? Can we have a relaxed environment with these young people to give in voice to these very things that we are going to talk about, just so we don't dump it on them, but to hear them as well. So we create an environment. We need to create an environment also for men. And we started by playing a game called Truth or Myth. And we selected we selected men, and we also selected women who reacted to certain statements that we have that is quite popular out there about gender stereotypes. And they use their cards to show truth or myth, and then you show your card. And it was a fun exercise, but then after that exercise, the resource person came to say, well, I actually came here to come and talk to you about sexual consent and dump it on you. But hearing some of these things that you're saying, I've never even heard before. And I'm a man, and men were saying things that I absolutely have never heard before. So creating an environment that is relatable is absolutely important. And also another thing that we need to do is representation. Representation is everything. In religion, for example, my religion in Ghana, more than 70% of people are religious, mainly Christians. And religion tells us almost everything that we need to do in our society. So we have witch camps here in Ghana where older women are camped on witchcraft accusations. They are isolated from their families. And most of these things are perpetrated by religious people, by leaders, male leaders. So to do this change, I find a lot of human rights organizations shunning or running away from religion because we always think about religion as a retrogressive factor in our work. But really, if we include religion, if we representation being so important, we need to find people within those religious spaces to use religious language to reach out to these people to making the change that is required. We need to also include all types of men. You know, sometimes I'm still talking about representation. We bring up men who are quite, we see these artsy men is quite expected of them. These are human rights centered men. Wow, that's quite expected of them. But when you bring that kind of different man that a lot of people think that is not stereotypically a positive masculine person, it begins to have a great impact on other men who are listening to people who are like them. And that is absolutely one of the things that makes the change. And I also really do think that engaging men like myself, like Lucas, like men all around the world is also a huge way of making that difference. It's almost like the fish and the cat scenario. Since men are hugely perpetrators of gender-based violence, why not make men the guardsmen of this situation, of this issue that is happening? Involve men, make them the guardsmen. Make sure that, like we do in the boys community, every human being in the boys community is expected to be a defense wherever they find themselves. Use your voice to speak up when you see injustice. So we are making men active in these spaces where they're using their voices to speak up. Now, I, as a man that is expected to be a perpetrator of gender-based violence, I am speaking up. How then do I become the perpetrator of the very thing that I'm asked to speak up on? So engaging men is a huge way of making it work. And of course, community. So I really do think that if we are able to involve community, change cannot happen just with one person. If we're able to involve the entire community in this work of change, we will definitely see what we expected to see in the end.
Thank you, Richard.